No, you have to discipline the children because I'm very disturbed. They can sit, give them some books, some toy, they need something to keep them busy, I don't. Otherwise they're gonna go all over the place. So all of you, where are you from? Paris? You come from Paris. And you are new to Krishna consciousness?
Here, first time, but in India we have visited Bombay.
Okay. And anyway, and I don't hear well. So anyway, we're gonna. There's so many books, Who is Srila Prabhupada? Yeah, founder of the Hare Krishna movement, an incredible saint, scholar, person. So on Sunday we talk about him. There's so many books. There's so many books written by his disciples. We have only one in French, like a summary. But I'm reading I took notes from different books, and I will tell some short stories, And you can go on the internet also. There's so many classes by him, interviews, and films also, wonderful film. What's the one of Yadubar?
Hare Krishna, the Swami, the movement, and everything that he started.
So Hare Krishna, the movement, the Swami, and we studied it all, and it's amazing, amazing. Each time it makes me cry, it makes me like.
And it's free on YouTube.
Huh?
It's free on YouTube also.
The short version only, yeah.
Not the full version.
It's free on YouTube.
Yeah, I saw it the other day.
You can be. I never met Prabhupada personally, but I feel I met him a lot in his books and his videos and his film. And my spiritual master is disciple of Prabhupada. And we still have so many Prabhupada disciples alive. And it's not because you were a Prabhupada disciple that you met him a lot. Some hardly met him, some disciples of Prabhupada, right? Mm. So we are fortunate. We should appreciate our good fortune to be under the shelter of Srila Prabhupada, because he did so many sacrifices, austerities. That's why it's important. Personally, it enthuses me a lot to I read every day about Prabhupada here also. And, that's how we get the faith, the conviction also. Because Prabhupada is convinced. Sometimes, we can be intellectually convinced, but right? But when you see Prabhupada, it's alive. Krishna is there with him, So we have no doubt anymore that Krishna is God, is real, Because sometimes, as I said, it can be very intellectual. So that's what we need to hear from self-realized soul, pure devotee, and hear about him. Okay. So that's what we're going to do. So I don't need to translate anything, right?
No.
Okay, good. Okay. So Prabhupada, he was, of course, a great pure devotee, a great scholar, a great human being also, and he had many aspects of his personality, including his humor. Prabhupada could joke, So sometimes devotees take everything, Prabhupada. But sometimes he was joking, we'll see, Okay, so this one took place in Melbourne. I think the Transcendental Diary is, what's the name of the devotee? The author of the Transcendental Diary. What's the name? I forgot the name. Anyway.
Satsvarup Maharaj? No.
No, it's not Satsvarup. Anyway. So it happened in 76. Once he was in the Melbourne airport and was detained at the custom counter, So I think it's highly sorry. So he just had one of his disciples had an heated argument with an official because they refused to let Prabhupada go through the custom and someone else to care of his luggage. And one policeman arrived and there was a roaring kirtan. Of course, each time Prabhupada arrived in an airport, it was like an amazing scene, The devotees took over the airport, the kirtan, mridanga, and flower garlands, and, devotees falling down and crying, and it's quite a scene, And so there was a roaring kirtan, and so Prabhupada, he asked very innocently, "Oh, is it because of me? This is our man." He didn't know who else would do kirtan in an airport like that. So he could have this looking innocent, So this one was also in Melbourne. So I'm going to tell you first another story relating to psychiatrists. Jyotirmayi Dasi, disciple of Prabhupada, French disciple, and she was bringing many important people to meet Prabhupada in Paris. And one time she invited a psychiatrist, famous psychiatrist, and he was waiting downstairs from the building, and anyway, at some point, I'm getting mixed up, Anyway, at some point, Prabhupada thought that he came to see a patient. He came to see him. It was not clear, that the psychiatrist came to see Prabhupada as a patient. He thought he was going to see a patient. He did not really understand it was going to be an interview with a famous spiritual personality. And then, so he had some doubts about what to do, the psychiatrist. And Prabhupada joked, he said, he didn't know he was the patient, He was the patient because Prabhupada, transcendental doctor, he's going to cure us of material disease, material illusions. It's very, very powerful, In fact, I'm reading the book of Vishaka Dasi also. She's a disciple of Prabhupada. She's the one also doing the movies with her husband, Yaduba. And she said, just being around Prabhupada, she became, first she was an atheist, not really interested in Krishna consciousness. But by Prabhupada influence, Prabhupada presence, Prabhupada way of speaking, of looking at her, everything. So she became convinced, she became a very dedicated disciple. So you can see the power of a pure devotee, and also you see its qualities, touch the heart, Sometimes devotees didn't really agree with everything, especially at the beginning, but Prabhupada's personality they were very attracted to. Because it's amazing what he did, Prabhupada. He came when he was 69, huh?
Yeah.
He came in 65.
Where, in US?
He came to the US in 65.
65.
And he was, how old was he?
He was 70 because he had a birth on the Jaladuta, birthday.
He was 7, imagine, I'm 77 now, and I think, oh my God, you know, I'm losing my memory, I'm getting tired. I see Prabhupada at the age of 70, he came all by himself. With no money, practically. No money, a few rupees, worth nothing.
40 rupees.
40 rupees, you couldn't even change them. And he came and he didn't know anybody. Went to New York City, you know, big, hellish planet in itself, you know. And some books, of course, he brought some of his books. And in the Jaladuta, he came with a boat, you know. And he had 2 heart attacks, severe heart attacks, you know. So it started, his austerity started right from the beginning, you know. That, you know, how many days on the boat? 1 month?
Just over a month.
Over a month, imagine. And there was one time, it was a big storm. It looked like very dangerous, you know, in the middle of the ocean. And but the captain said he's never seen it because of the presence of Prabhupada. He's never seen the sailing, crossing so smooth, so peaceful, you know, because of Prabhupada's presence. Anyway, so he started right under Jaladuta. And so I arrived in New York City, and he was maintaining himself by selling some of his books, which was not easy, you know, going to the different shops, and it was the hippie time, and one time he managed to rent a place, but he had his things stolen, you know, his typewriter and recorder. I mean, we can imagine the austerities he went through, you know, and so little by little he attracted these young hippies, and people were searching. There was a time searching for the absolute truth. So here and so in 11 years, you know, he managed to start a spiritual movement. Started in New York City, and then he made disciples, and it went all over the world. In short 11 years, we can't even conceive. You know, even him was surprised sometimes how it happened. You know. So you can see that he was really sent directly by Krishna. You know, because there's a category of avatar. Avatar means one who descends from the spiritual world, and Shakti Vishavatar is somebody who's invested with the Shakti, with the energy of God, Krishna. So Prabhupada is definitely Shakti Vishavatar, you know, and his energy is inconceivable. And that's how we should thank him every day, you know, and read about him, and we are dependent, you know. That's how we sing the prayers every day. We need the mercy of the spiritual master, even though we've not been initiated by him. We are following his instructions. That's real initiation, like real connection. Okay, so back to Melbourne, Australia. One person asked whether psychiatric treatment was required for a cure for mental disorders. Prabhupada first made the point that first you have to understand the root cause of a disease before you can cure it. He stated that only crazy fellows go to see a psychiatrist, and sometimes they also make the psychiatrist crazy. So more or less, everyone is crazy. We had that experience. You know. Prabhupada recounted the story of a court case for murder in Calcutta. The murderer was played innocent on account of insanity, saying, I was crazy, you know. A great civil surgeon was called to examine the case, and he gave his opinion to the court. My opinion is that everyone is more or less mad. It is just a question of degree. Prabhupada gives his definition of craziness. Anyone who does not believe in God and surrender to Him is a crazy man or woman. Everyone in the material world is completely under the control of God and its material energy. But they have the audacity to say that there is no God and that they are independent. That is craziness. So everyone is a patient of a psychiatrist. So, Prabhupada came to cure our craziness. Because a lot of us, like it's a good example. She's a good example because she was an atheist, before meeting Prabhupada. Her husband was more interested first, First, she didn't even want to say Hare Krishna, And like, okay, I got to check it out, And Prabhupada sometimes would joke, on Independence Day in America, there was a big festival. Prabhupada was joking like, I'm independent, And but if you're so independent, why don't you stop death and old age and disease? And so Prabhupada is also a transcendental psychiatrist, as he says So this one took place in Honolulu, which is Hawaii. Alarm clocks, they ring wherever you set them. The servant of Prabhupada came into his room as the buzzer of the alarm clock sounded. What is that? Asked Prabhupada. Oh, it's my alarm clock, Srila Prabhupada. So he said with mock seriousness, who is in danger? Because alarm being, is a danger. Anyway, there's also some stories of Prabhupada. One time he was on a flight and they were showing on the screen Charlie Chaplin movie, So the devotee accompanying Prabhupada was thinking, okay, I'm not going to look, devotees don't do these things. They don't look at these kind of movies. And he was looking at Prabhupada. Prabhupada was laughing, and laughing to tears, because it was the story of Charlie Chaplin and dancing and his tailcoat, they had a tailcoat and it split open. And then he kept dancing and everybody imitating Charlie Chaplin. So Prabhupada was smiling, not crying, laughing to tears. So Prabhupada, it's not like a spiritual master who was serious, Yes, is a different aspect of his personality. Still in Honolulu, we have a term in Sanskrit means affection and liquid. A liquid flows from the highest to the lowest, from Krishna to the soul. Prabhupada explained why we love the body. We love Krishna, and because the soul is part of Krishna, part and parcel, therefore we love the soul. And because the soul is within the body, therefore we love the body. So it's one explanation. Of course, a lot of time he said smashing identification with the body. But it's an interesting point. Krishna is there. Another time in Honolulu, he was criticizing the modern philosophers who do not accept God. He said they're all meat-eaters, drunkards, woman hunters, dogs simply barking. It could be very strong with it, but calling dogs. These kind of people, dogs, lowest of mankind. So he said, Prabhupada said, if they present something with word jugglery, people think it is very deep thought. He then let loose a stream of fluent gibberish. Gibberish means you know, just see what it is. In a hilarious imitation of a word-juggling philosopher. So I'm going to try to imitate him. I won't be funny. I'm not going to laugh. O patiro sama bagabwa dictanini kude. Kude like this monthly. You can't understand one word. So he was just imitating. But it was so funny that all the devotees were in stitches. I mean, they were just laughing to tears. You know? So Prabhupada could make us laugh also, make us cry. He brought up many different emotions. This one is it. Okay, we go back to the scientist. And Transcendental Diary, I think I forgot who knows?
Sorry, yes, sir.
Oh yeah, sorry, Prabhu. So he preached a lot to scientists, you know, and the main point about preaching to scientists, they should not be falsely proud and mislead others into thinking there is no God. He was very concerned because now, you know, like in schools, you know, what do they teach? Darwin theory of evolution, you know. In America, they started at, I don't know, 20 years ago, to teach alternative, you know, creation, you know, the idea of a God. There was the time of the anti-sect, anti-cult, you know. But in France, it was really strong. How do they dare to bring the idea of the creation, of a creator into the public schools? But they don't have no hesitation to push this theory of Darwin, you know, which is not proved at all, you know. France is a very atheistic. If you said God in the school, you know, like being you can be kicked out, you know. I don't know the situation in school now in France. What do they teach? I don't know. I've been in school for a long time. But there was, in fact, a prominent French magazine, it has an article of Prabhupada. And they are totally indignant, and they quote Prabhupada. And like in America, they accept, you know, that you present God as a creator, but in France, we're not going to do that, you know. It's like, no way it's going to go. Anyway, you can borrow this. It's interesting to see the history of ISKCON movement in France, you know, how it was seen and accepted. We were put in a category of cults, you know. At the time, it was very derogatory. I mean, there was all kind of crazy things, and so, you know, moon, I don't know how many people committed suicide with moon. It was the leader of the sect. Anyway, there was some crazy things going on, definitely. But we were all lumped in, you know, the serious religious people who presented, you know, non-traditional scriptures and religious ideas. Of course, things have changed, you know, in France. You know, see now we have a Ratha Yatra in 1 month, you know, heart of Paris, Lord Jagannath is on the right and his chariot. And devotees are distributing millions of books. So, but there was a time we were really put down. There was a big war again. They called off, you know, these anti-cults. Anyway, so Prabhupada was very concerned about what the scientists were teaching because they were influencing everybody in society. So Prabhupada, so he was very angry. You can see also, you know, quality pure devotee. He can get not just like this mood, always. He can be very powerful and very criticizing also, but for the service of God, you know. And even call them dogs and rascals and fools. I mean, he had no hesitation because, you know, they were misleading people. They were turning them away from God and Krishna. So he was very concerned. So people follow these so-called authorities and they accept what they say. Since they are challenging the existence of God, we are challenging them. Those who admit that we are all under God, we have no quarrel, we are friends. The scientists have to admit their limitations. They have manufactured a 747, which is a plane, but they cannot make a mosquito. They have to admit there is a better manufacturer than God, which is God, you know. So one time, you know, one devotee was going to a religious, like a convention, and he told his disciple, he didn't go himself, but he asked his disciple, scientist, how to preach. He said, tell them, right away you confront them, make a mosquito, create a mosquito, then we'll believe, you know, life comes from matter. But of course they are not capable of doing this kind of thing. And also it's the business of the devotees to chastise those who blaspheme against God, you know. Yeah, there's no God. I am God, yeah, that's the other thing, you know. There's no God, we all God, yeah. If you're all God, stop death, you know, stop old age. In fact, one time there was the devotees, it was in Vrindavan, they brought a famous magician to Prabhupada. He was doing some tricks, you know, making things, he put, let's say, a flower here, and Prabhupada's ears, and then it appeared someplace else. I mean, he was doing magic. And then, so Prabhupada was laughing, you know. The devotees were thinking, wow, you know, it's not so serious now. And then at one point, Prabhupada stopped it. He said, okay, now, can you stop? He talked to the magician, can you stop old age, disease, and death? Do you have this kind of magic? I said, no, I can't do that. So, you know, that's, we all have to confront people.
Prabhupada said that, well, I can show you how to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Prabhupada said, that was the punchline, yeah? Prabhupada said, I can show you how to do that, how to
that
get over.
I can show
not
you.
all this disease and death.
I can show you how to do that. Yeah, in fact, he's showing us definitely how to do that. The scientists, in his own words, mischief, not all the scientists, you know, because obviously there's some honest scientists, and even among his disciples, we have Bhakti Swami Damodar Swami. And I was in San Diego, there was Sadaputta Prabhu, great brain, you know, I mean, wow, what a brain. He's got some books, you know. We have many books written by devotees, and of course they participated in a scientific gathering and presented the Vedic viewpoint. There's one, Drutakama, what's the name of the book? I forgot. Anyway, he wrote a book about the Vedic version of the origin of life and the universe. You know, of course, it goes against Darwin speculation. I mean, he just speculated God. Even himself, I think he recognized it. So sometimes Prabhupada could be very strong, you know. They're mischievous, miscreants. Mischievous means acting in devious ways, you know. Cheating the idea of so mischievous. Bad intentions, you know, also mischievous. So Prabhupada said, if you're real scientists, they should use their knowledge to prove that there is a God. So because we are servants of God, our business is to expose the rascals. We must chastise them immediately. Because we have to be careful how we preach, you know, and we cannot just chastise, you know, the non-believers. But That's where, Prabhupada was expert, But sometimes he was very shocked. And even devotees were shocked sometimes, So, like here, in one instant, he exposed the cheating. After the moon expedition, they said they went to moon, they showed photos, and they said, oh, it looks like Arizona, the desert, I lived there for some time. Because you know why? They say it looks like Arizona, Prabhupada said. Because, so Prabhupada, he compared the scientists with a person robbing a house. They go robbing and hearing some noise and seeing some, people from the house saying, oh no, I'm not stealing. Of course, they were caught red-handed. So Prabhupada said these scientists got red-handed then. By saying it looked like Arizona, they revealed that it was Arizona, it was photos from Arizona, the desert there. So when people will believe it, they went to the moon. Yeah, that's another example I was talking about. Swarup Damodar Swami, great devotee, who unfortunately left his body. He was planning to go to a science conference in Tokyo, organized by the International Society for the Study of the Origin of Life. And so Maharaj revealed to Prabhupada his intention to show him some mathematics to the scientists, saying it is possible that about 4 million years ago life came about. So Prabhupada told them to simply challenge them, instead of bringing all these numbers, to prepare a chemical egg and make a life spiral. That's how he was challenging them, Yeah, there's a lot to do. In America it's more evolved, as I said before, I don't know in India, who knows what they teach to the kids in school, Really interesting to me. You can see the philosophy of the country, the leaders. So this is from Yaduba, Yaduba is a filmmaker. He's the one who did wonderful films about Prabhupada, and his wife is Vishaka Dasu. So he's talking about Srila Prabhupada's magic. So I'm gonna make you guess what was the magic of Prabhupada, how he got people attracted and interested in Krishna consciousness. One big quality he had.
Humility.
Try it. Try something.
Humility.
Huh?
Humility.
Humility, yeah. That's,
love, compassion.
Love, compassion, that's care. He was caring, He was caring, That's what attracted Vishaka. You can really feel and see that he was caring. Not just about your soul, about your body, How's your stomach, Devotees get very sick sometimes. And Prabhupada was asking about their health, how they were doing. But you could feel, they could feel, he really cared. Sometimes we go, how are you, like going in a hallway, how are you, I'm thinking, a lot of people ask me how I am. I don't know if they really care about me, but they ask me, sometimes it's just a ritual, asking people how you're doing. But, if you, one time, I tried in the literature, somebody asked me how I'm doing, and I go, oh, terrible, I think of suicide or something like that. Oh, yes, very good. So I could see the person didn't really listen to my reply, I'm doing very bad, a lot of pain. And, oh, yeah, they did pay attention. Anyway, one quality of a devotee is compassion, So Prabhupada had magic, that's the Yaduba talking, that made us love him and be willing to sacrifice our lives for him and do anything for him. The magic was that Prabhupada cared for each and every one of his disciples, and also not only his disciples, but the others. All of us felt it by his statements, his actions, and his consciousness. And also the way he was looking at people. That of a Mahabhagavat. We know what is a Mahabhagavat. Maha means great, and Bhagavat, devotee of Bhagavan, devotee of God, pure devotee. He cares for the welfare of all living beings, and not only humans, but animals, insects, every creature to care about. And along with caring, he tolerated our wrongdoings and bad habits, even as we so tenaciously embrace them. That's also part of caring. Not to stop even though there's good reason. That desire for someone to care about us and for us run deep back to Krishna. Isn't it the main ingredient for love, both material and spiritual? That someone cares for us with all his or her being, to sacrifice one's life for those they care for, as Srila Prabhupada did. I mean, you can see, in the movie at the end of his life, Prabhupada, he was just like, he was very sick, skeleton. He had used his body to the maximum to serve, to push Krishna consciousness, which is all over, not only America, and in India, and in so many countries, and now it's flourishing. When you look at the list of already temples in the world, ISKCON temples, it's amazing, Even in Russia, recently, one devotee sent me a little clip of a movie. It's about in Russia, some devotees, women devotees doing a dance to Indian music, and even the Mahamantra, Mahamantra in the background. So we could not imagine these things at the beginning of the movement. I mean, I was helping the campaign to free the Soviet Hare Krishna. The story of the movement in Russia is very interesting. In fact, it started one devotee meeting Prabhupada when he went to Moscow. He went to Moscow. He was invited by Professor Kotovsky, and his servant was going. Of course, it was the time, anything religious was forbidden. I mean, people were putting in jail, labor camps, by talking about God. It was a very atheistic regime, and the Christians, they were bringing some Bibles by boat, found the way. So anyway, preaching about God in Russia at the time was really taking big risks. So one time, one of his servants, Prabhupada, he was looking for things to buy to cook for Prabhupada. Vegetarian was not easy to find things, and he met. There was one Indian man with another one, a Russian. So they started to talk. They started to talk, and then eventually the servant of Prabhupada brought them to meet Prabhupada. And Anatoly, that was his name, Anatoly. And in fact, he was really soaking in everything Prabhupada was saying. And in fact, Prabhupada gave him his Bhagavad Gita. So that has started one person. And then he met him, Prabhupada, he met him a few times, And then Prabhupada and the seventh they left. It was very short encounter. And then from one person he started to preach, to translate the Gita in Russian, and preach. And he was arrested. He was taken to labor camp also, you know. He was taken to labor camp for years. I don't know how many, I forgot. Anyway, there's a book about him. You can borrow. What was the name of the book? I have problem with names now. Anyway, there's a book about him, and it's a really touching book. And then, just for one person, there was many devotees in Russia. And then the printed books, everything had to be undercover, you know. Of course, then the regime changed, they overthrew communism and the whole story, and then now there's temples, and many devotees dancing on the Red Square, you know. So things we couldn't imagine at that time.
It's the largest out of India. It's the largest out of India, the ISKCON movement in Russia.
Oh yeah, the largest community.
Largest community out of India is the Russia.
Besides India, yeah. Yeah, I mean, because Russian, they were very pious people, you know. In fact, but then the communists came, I think they closed the churches, you know, you couldn't go to the churches. But they are beautiful temples in Moscow, you know, and other places. And it's happening. Lord Chaitanya said that this movement, my mantra will go all over the world, you know. And it's happening, you know, now, you know.
Because of Prabhupada it's happened.
Huh?
Because of Prabhupada it's happened.
Because of Prabhupada, you know, what he did is, as we said, you know, incredible, miraculous, and that's what we have to really hear about him, and we can see it happening in our own lives, you know, this movement. So it's not just in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, you know, it's happening. It gives us more faith, you know. In fact, it gives me more faith that, you know, it's real, you know, Chaitanya is real, you know. He came 500 years ago, which is really recently when you think about cosmic scale of time. You know, it's just like yesterday. So we should appreciate our good fortune. Sometimes we think, yeah, Hare Krishna. We could think like that, but we have to appreciate the unique opportunity, you know, we have with the Maha Mantra, Prabhupada. Okay, so, you know, Prabhupada giving his own Bhagavad Gita to Anatoly, became Anantashant. Yeah, because he underwent, I'm talking about Anantashant, undergo so many austerity to spread, you know, he was put in labor camp, and they hadn't anything to eat, and I don't know if they were tortured. Some devotees were tortured, you know. It's like a big thing, you know, big sacrifice, you know. And just to, one time, some devotees said, yeah, Prabhupada said, go to Russia. Yeah, but you know, there's nothing vegetarian, you know, we have to eat. There's only meat. Prabhupada, if you have to eat meat, eat meat. Of course, you know, it's not for that. But it was showing the principle that preaching was so important, you know. Sometimes it was more important than some details. Of course, it's not a detail, you know, not eating meat, but it's just Prabhupada was so concerned, you know, to spread this movement. And that's why he was so grateful to those who helped me, you know. So grateful. He embraced his disciples. And I can understand. Okay, anyway, Yaduba. Okay, for many, that carrying Modi ISKCON, yeah. For many devotees, that carrying Modi ISKCON had been lost. It's Yaduba talking. There are still to be found rare devotees that carry that magic. but as a group, or mood of individual within the group, we discarded it somewhere back there after November 77 when Prabhupada left. So this was written in 2000. Anyway, there's lots of good things happening in ISKCON to caring for older, for children, for women. There's lots of very good things happening. So, it shows the importance of caring for other devotees. If we care about someone, we listen. Listen. If we care about them, we listen to what they have to say. Even the mundane, of course, we can just spend hours listening to mundane things. Srila Prabhupada listened to my wife, Vishaka, and I complaining about the fighting and slander of women in the Calcutta temple in 1971. Slander, it was the time, I'm going back into these documents, about the story of Vaishnavis in ISKCON, It's quite a story. At the beginning, there was a very friendly relationship between men and women, respectful, but then they got this idea, women are less intelligent, women, they're dangerous, they are inferior, etc., etc., etc. And so we can treat them like, I won't say how, but it was not glorious at all. Slander, criticizing. So Prabhupada listened. He was concerned and caring about our well-being and that of his institutions. That sad things would not go on to drive devotees away from his shelter. The stories abound, there's marriage stories about Prabhupada cared and how many devotees were driven away from Krishna consciousness, especially women, because of that, because of the way they were considered and treated. I was very involved with the women Vaishnavi ministry. In ISKCON, by the way, we have different ministries to deal with different aspects of the movement. Big movement, cow ministry.
What you just described is in the early days, right? Describing what happened in the early days, the misconceptions.
That's the other thing, misconceptions. So I'm going to, they're not totally erased, unfortunately, but much better, different.
If you look at what Prabhupada propagated, he wasn't on the bodily platform in the first place. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having pujaris who are female, etc., like that.
No, exactly. So
I just wanted to balance that.
No, I was saying there's a whole story, I just,
sure.
This is the beginning, but now I'm going to read, I could make a special presentation. I already did some, because,
sure.
Many books have been written also, by Vaishnavis and things have changed. But, it's always good to understand the history of the movement, and so this happened in 1990 during a Bhagavatam class with Sadaputta, as I said, a big scientist, very intelligent. So one devotee was asking, what is the correlation between brain size and intelligence? Some devotees will use Prabhupada's statement to a woman reporter in Chicago about a man having 64 ounces of brain and a woman 32 ounces. So to put that woman as being less intelligent, as being an inferior species. No, it was Prabhupada said it a few times, but we have to see which context. It's interesting to hear the Sadaputta comment. The situation there is this. First of all, Srila Prabhupada said that on a couple of different occasions. It was not like all the time. The impression that I had was that he was joking with the person involved. See, Prabhupada could joke also, just tease them a little bit. And you have to stop and think about what he was saying. He cited his authority for that statement about the woman's brain and so forth from a person at the Scottish Church's College. He attended that college in Calcutta. So you have to ask why Prabhupada would cite a European medical doctor for any purpose. Srila Prabhupada repeated over and over and again that the speculative process is not a genuine part of knowledge, and so that science is full of cheating. So he stressed it, and it is so high is it that suddenly he turns around and starts citing this European medical doctor on the sides of the brains. So as far as I can see, he was joking, and some people fail to get that point, you know. So that's the other thing, you know. Sometimes you have to see how you quote Prabhupada, you know. That's the point he's making, in which context he was saying things, you know. And you can then make it, that's the absolute truth, you know. You can learn from a medical doctor, not even devotee. So, women brains tend to, Sadhaputta said, yeah, women brains tend to be smaller. That's a fact. It's correlated to the body, the size of the body. You know, if you have a smaller body, you have a smaller brain. The size of the brain tends to be correlated with the size of the body. People with bigger bodies tend to have bigger brains. Many whales have much bigger bodies than we do. But to speak of elephants, elephant certainly has a bigger brain than a human being. Anyway, so now for the statement about women being less intelligent, Prabhupada would also make interesting comment on one matter. He said, if you think you're a woman, that means you are less intelligent, because you're supposed to understand that you are a spirit soul, and that your real identity is transcendental to this bodily designation. That's what he means. So any person who identifies with the body is less intelligent. That's the conclusion of Prabhupada, you know. So, anyway, there's many things. That's why it's interesting to read the books, as I said, all the books written about Prabhupada. And, so this is in Auckland, it's a good conclusion. Krishna is not, Prabhupada talking, Krishna is not easy to be understood, but we are giving you facility by eating Krishna prasadam. This is the policy. We are not poor feeding. That is not our philosophy. And that is a fact. That is by eating. One day you will become Krishna conscious. Simply by eating. Because you are so dull, you cannot understand the philosophy. You know the belly like the animal, so therefore we are giving facility. All right, fill up your belly, go to breakfast, and you'll become infected. This prasadam is Krishna infected. You take it, and then one day you will be infected with this Krishna consciousness. So there's hope for us. If we don't understand it, it's very deep philosophy, you know. Some things are very inconceivable. So just by eating, honoring Krishna prasadam, we can be infected like Krishna, you know. It depends, of course, the devotion of the devotees cooking and offering. So it's a very wonderful aspect of Krishna consciousness, distribution of prasadam, you know. And like today I'm going to see a lady, you know, she's doing a garage sale. I went there yesterday and I found a book about reincarnation. And she told me she had come to the temple one time. There was a garage sale. And she was very disappointed. It was not very well organized. Anyway, she was negative. And then finally because I got the book and a few other things, she gave them to me, you know. She changed her attitude. But first she was very, very negative, you know. And I was thinking, I'm going to bring you some prasadam, you know. See, that's the secret weapon, you know. It's a secret weapon. Give, like my family, you know, if you talk about Krishna, I forget it, you know. So I got to send them some prasadam. So we cannot forget that it's a secret weapon. Thanks to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki?
Jai.
Sorry if it was a little.
Praise Gaurangi Mataji ki.